Alright, let's dive into a story that's equal parts frustrating and eye-opening. An Edmonton couple stuck in the Caribbean after a WestJet strike. Now, on the surface, this might seem like just another travel nightmare, but personally, I think it's a perfect case study of how airlines handle crises and where the system can really let passengers down. Here's the deal. Elaine and Charlery and her husband Timothy were supposed to fly back to Edmonton after a family reunion in St. Lucia, but their flight got cancelled due to the WestJet strike. Sounds like a typical strike aftermath, right? Wrong. What makes this really interesting is the why behind their delay, and it's not just about the strike itself. First off, WestJet offered to rebook them on a flight through Atlanta. Sounds like a solution, until you realize Timothy, a Canadian permanent resident, travels on a St. Lucia passport. That means he'd need a US visa, even for a layover. From my perspective, this is where the story stops being about a strike and starts being about airlines' lack of flexibility. WestJet basically said, "Not our problem," even though the route they offered was impossible for Timothy to take. In my opinion, this is a classic example of airlines prioritizing policy over people. I mean, if you take a step back and think about it, how hard would it have been to find a more viable option? Especially when the couple asked for alternatives, like Air Canada flights. What many people don't realize is that airlines often have a 48-hour window to rebook passengers, and WestJet technically met that requirement. But here's the thing. Meeting the bare minimum isn't the same as actually helping your customers. One thing that immediately stands out is how this situation highlights the gap between airline policies and passenger rights. Gabor Lukács, from Airline Passenger Rights, called WestJet's stance unfair, and I couldn't agree more. He said it's one thing to make a mistake, but doubling down on it? That's bad faith. And honestly, that's what this feels like. A lack of empathy and a refusal to go the extra mile. Now, let's talk about the human cost here. Elaine and Timothy are stuck in St. Lucia for an extra week, which means unexpected expenses, missed work, and stress. Elaine works in accounting and was supposed to handle month-end duties, something that can't just be put on hold. What this really suggests is that travel disruptions aren't just about missed flights. They're about real people's lives being upended. And the fact that they're picking avocados and mangoes for food because there's no grocery store nearby? That's a detail I find fascinating, and honestly, a little heartbreaking. It's a stark reminder of how quickly things can go from vacation to survival mode. If you take a step back and think about it, this story raises a deeper question. Are airlines doing enough to protect passengers during strikes? WestJet says they're working to normalize operations, but for Elaine and Timothy, normal feels like a distant memory. Personally, I think this is a wake-up call for the industry. Strikes are unpredictable, but how airlines respond shouldn't be. There needs to be more accountability, more flexibility, and more humanity in these situations. So, what's the takeaway here? In my opinion, it's this. Travel is unpredictable, but how companies handle the chaos says everything about their values. WestJet might have followed the rules, but they missed the point. And for Elaine and Timothy, this isn't just a delay, it's a lesson in how fragile our travel systems can be. What do you think? Have you ever been in a situation where an airline's policy felt completely out of touch with reality? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.